Man Online. I'm Dan. This is Isaiah.
What up?
And I'm freshly awake, so my voice will come through as we go along here. But all right, we're going to start off with the Game of the Year and a bit of the Game of the Year controversy. Now, all you guys out there, if you can see what we're going to even talk about before we do, it's probably...
Well, there's been quite a bit of controversy for the Game Awards in general. But like the big one that people are talking about is how they did an announcement that said, hey, we're going to be allowing DLC remasters and like all these other things are going to now be eligible as if they were individual games. And everybody was like, you're just doing this because you want to get Elden Ring on Game of the Year. And like the day later when they revealed all this stuff, you can see Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is here, up for Game of the Year. Part of the, I mean, like that, I think that kind of explains in and of itself, where it's just like, are you okay with DLC being eligible? I personally say no. There should be just a category for best DLC, and I think one of the big reasons why, which I'll expand on it a little bit, is that you need to own Elden Ring, and actually for this DLC, play through Elden Ring before you can even do the DLC. You can't just buy Shadow of the Erdtree and play it on its own.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that there's any reason it should be here. And I think the very obvious one, now I haven't played Metaphor, but I think the very obvious vote here is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Well, I think all the rest of the games on here deserve it. But it's funny that you mentioned Rebirth, because when people were talking about Elden Ring, the opposite side is they said, oh, Rebirth shouldn't be available. It's a remake. You shouldn't allow remakes. But no, it like, even if it is a remake, you look at what a remake is. It is a from the ground up reconstruction of a game. Like, I would say the Dead Space remake should be eligible for Game of the Year.
What about remasters?
Remasters, I don't think so, because they're not from the ground up. They are just digital upgrades. Whereas, like, you look at something like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth and compare them to the original, and I say, like, story is only one part of a game. You've got music, you've got writing, you have characters, you have backgrounds, you know, graphics, so much stuff that goes into a game. Story is just one little bit of it. And even so, in Rebirth's case, it's not the same exact copy-pasted story. And slight spoiler stuff for, like, Remake and Rebirth, it's not even completely a remake. It's more of a sequel.
I think I agree with your initial point that if you can't play the game by itself, then it shouldn't be on Game of the Year. So you're saying that they took away the category for...
Yeah, I don't even know if they ever did have a best DLC category.
Get on to the next. Speaking of remakes, remasters.
Reading that title.
My favorite game that has ever been created is potentially getting a remaster. Bloodborne fans aren't happy. Suck it, Bloodborne.
They skipped over too.
Oh yeah, Dark Souls 2 sucks, so at me.
I'd say if all the games that deserve like a remaster / retwork would be that game. I would say like make Dark it more Souls 2? Make Dark Souls 2 more like Dark Souls 3. Then you can make it a good game.
Yeah. Completely rebuild it, I would say. But rumors of Sony buying From Software's parent company have been swirling. Rumors of Dark Souls 3 remaster. Sorry, you don't really need to do anything to that game. It's already masterful as is. But I'm excited about this. It's been a while. I think it came out in 2015, but I'm trying to think of even what they could do, because it's a beautiful game to begin with.
Well, from what I'm seeing from Remaster, it's just bringing it to current day consoles. The idea. It's a PS3 game, right?
PS4.
Wasn't it also PS3?
I don't believe so.
I mean, that might still PS4 to PS5.
Is this like the Spider-Man PS4 game?
Yeah, that they brought.
We got a remaster. It's like, it looks a little better. The only thing that they better do when they remake this is have the DLC included.
I don't see why they wouldn't.
Which the DLC for this game is Dark Eater Midir is the hardest boss that I have ever faced in any game ever. it's borderline goddamn impossible. Out of all the times I've probably beaten Dark Souls 3 15 to 20 times, I've beaten that boss once.
Yeah.
It is insane how difficult it is. For this guy, Dark Souls is so much easier after Elden Ring. I feel the exact opposite. It's just, I'm thinking just from boss to boss of what I've faced so far without, because I don't run and go somewhere else. So boss to boss that I've faced for Elden Ring, I've beaten 85% of the bosses in one try in Elden Ring. It's been so easy. Even this goddamn Renala.
Oh, Renala is super easy, especially if you go for a physical build.
It was not easy.
Oh, really?
It took me 2 tries for her, but
I beat her first
it's like
try.
when you're a kid and you create like your own superhero, but you just give them all the powers. She was throwing spells at me, blasts, missiles, a moon that exploded, then she summoned a dragon. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Adjacent to the Dark Souls games, you got Stellar Blade here. And I just thought it'd be fun to mention that we're getting a DLC for Nier, which is one of the other sexiest characters in a video game, so makes sense. And if you look at like the outfits that they're doing, they look pretty good. And then people were comparing it to the outfit that the 2B outfit that you got from Rainbow Six Siege, which was just like completely clothed and very masculine looking. And it's like person who doesn't get 2B, and then you'd expect the people who do Stellar Blade to get what makes people like 2B. I mean, also just a very good game in general.
Saturday night, 2024, Jason Reitman. So essentially, the entire movie takes place in one day. What the hell is the guy's name? Oh my god, I can't believe I just blanked on his name. But this dude here plays the main guy who owns Saturday Night Live. And it's him trying to wrangle an entire cast. He has to pitch the idea, doesn't really know what what Saturday Night is technically going to be.
But he's like trying to Saturday Night Live. Is that what this technically is? Okay.
It's one day, and it's all leading up to. He's got to wrangle this whole cast together of idiots, essentially. He's got to impress the big bosses. All kinds of stuff. It's very chaotic, but it's condensed into 2 or 3 locations for the entire movie. He has to leave at one point to wrangle one of the guys who's lost his goddamn mind, but the whole movie, what's his name from Stranger Things?
Finn Wolfhard, I can see his name in there. Yeah.
He's in it for like 35 seconds. It's super weird because once I saw him, like, oh, who's he playing? Doesn't matter. A lot of the characters play these parts. They don't necessarily look like the actors they're playing, but the guy who plays Chevy Chase sounds exactly like Chevy Chase. And it was weirding me out because
you just got a Chevy Chase impersonator.
Yeah, he looks a bit like him, but when you hear his voice,
you close your eyes and it's like, okay, that's Chevy Chase.
Everyone does a great job except this guy here with the leather jacket.
Who's he supposed to be?
I don't know, some asshole.
It's like Eddie Murphy or something.
No, I don't think we should guess. But
okay, it's just like the I don't know. Way he's dressed.
And you'd think for it being a movie about a comedy show, it would be a comedy movie. It's not. It's a drama about Lorne Michaels. That's the goddamn guy's name. Lorne Michaels on Saturday Night Live. Okay. I don't know why I blanked on that. But this poster essentially is exactly what the movie's about.
Just chaos.
But he's like Atlas holding up all this chaos. So it's very good. Kudos to the guy who plays Chevy Chase because it was really freaking me out. I don't see him on here. He's not in this picture. But regardless,
maybe he's the one they're laughing at.
It's a solid movie. It kind of made me sad at the end because of what Saturday Night Live has become now. Yeah. It's the revolution begins at 11:30. It's a whole show that was built on counterculture, and now it's just another extension of culture.
All right, I was sick one of my days of work. I had inflamed tonsils. I couldn't talk, and I was just stuck on my couch all day. I did what I could in Genshin and in Star Rail, so I threw in Metaphor, and now I am sucked into it. Just to be very brief about my early thoughts, I'm in the beginning, or I'm in the first dungeon, essentially. Like, if you played Persona 5, I'm in the castle there, essentially. I have my 3 party members. But the best way to explain this game is it's Persona 5, like, in every single way so far, except it's fantasy. Well, I guess not every single way, but it's fantasy instead of a high school setting. There are slight differences, like the way that the persona work. They're not persona in this, they're called archetypes. And unlike in Persona, where each party member only gets one persona they can use except for the main character, anybody can summon whatever archetype that they want. Because you can share skills between them, and it allows for a little bit more versatility when you're, kind of choosing your party. It's just gonna be a little bit weird, because if you get more than 4 party members, it's like, well, all their abilities and things come from the archetypes, not them. So what's the real purpose besides a stat block of having one character over the other? Because then it's like, oh, if for one character I'm statting them out to have high endurance because they're the tank class. If I get another person who has high endurance, well, is it just whatever character I like more? I don't know. I'll see how that plays out the more further I get into the game. I only have 3 characters right now, so that's not really an issue just yet. But it's the same thing where it's like, hey, we have to get to the top of this tower before this day when he's going to unlock this seal and steal this thing. We have 9 days, so you can go around and increase your skills, or do side quests or talk with people. Once they might add more stuff to do in between. It is these small little things in this game that do set it apart and make it interesting. For instance, like increasing your stats, and the side quests have a secondary objective, which I won't really spoil because it is an interesting thing that they're really going into with it. But the story is what's really interesting, and kind of the idea of, like, you can see it in the name alone, which it's become clear as I played the game, like Metaphor, Fantasio is like fantasy. So the whole idea of a metaphor between, the metaphor for reality versus fantasy versus fiction, and what is fantasy, and can it be real, or is it ever just a product of the imagination? It's kind of the basic, very, very basic themes that they're exploring. But just like a little fun tidbit that I can give you is he has a story, because it's a world with a lot of different races, and there's, like, hey, the people with, that have like dog ears and tails, they're thought of as lower according to the religion, so they're not looked as highly upon as like the people with the horns. Then like your main character looks like a human, but he's called an Elda, and they're considered the worst of the worst. Nobody likes them. And then like he reads a fantasy book where there's only one race, but it's like megapolises, and they have cars and things. But in like that storybook that he has, it's like, there is no strife. So it's like, okay, it's not our reality, obviously, but is this kind of idea of, we think of fantasy worlds, and they think of, our world, but they both have the fantasy idea of there being no, everybody gets along, and there's no strife. It's if you like Persona 5, gameplay wise, this game's very similar. There is some slight differences, like in the overworld, not everything is a turn-based combat thing. If you're way stronger than an enemy, you just walk up to them and hit them, and it instant kills them, gives you XP and
Persona 5
points.
did that too.
But like, if you got hit by the enemy, you'd still go into a turn-based combat thing. And I think that was like an option. But like with this one, if they hit you, it just deals damage to your main character. And because how it works in this game is you'll hit an enemy a bunch of times, and either you'll break their stagger meter and you can go in with an advantage on the enemy, or they'll hit you and you go in with a disadvantage, or you can just press a button and start the turn-based thing and it goes in neutral. there's a way like every combat you can go with an advantage if you are a little bit skilled with dodging and hitting right in the overworld, you could kind of say. Whereas Persona, it's basically like the only combat in the game really is just the turn-based combat. You can do that in this game if you want, but if you're willing to explore its other systems a little bit, you can make the gameplay a little bit easier. The last thing I'll say about it is I started on hard mode. I very quickly dropped it down to, not very quickly, but I dropped it down to normal mode. That was getting some frustrating with some of the combat early on. I feel like, hard mode's made for the new Game Plus where you have all your skills upgraded and everything already. You want to grind a little bit, but I was like, I want to get as much resources to get the social aspect of the game as well fleshed out as I can, and I'd rather not be frustrated while playing the game.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like we've been talking about playing the game for a while.
Oh yeah.
But it's just as good as so far that I've heard. I can't make a comment on the actual goodness of the game, as I'm probably only like 10 hours into a 100-hour game, if that.
Sure.
So, but I can already see why it's being nominated for Game of the Year. Let's just say that.
All right. Well, my intention was to complete season 14 before we recorded, but unfortunately I could not. So Archer wrapped itself up in 2023, and I'm just catching up with season 13 and 14.
Jeez, so many.
And season 13 was pretty good. It was a lot more of the usual Archer stuff. The end of season 12 saw the departure of Mrs. Archer because the actress passed away in real life, so they had to kind of write her off. They didn't kill her in the show, but they wrote her off. So season 13 was a lot more of the usual stuff that you get to know with Archer. Season 14 sees Lana become the new head of the agency. Not called ISIS anymore for obvious reasons.
I forget what they changed the name to. I do remember when they
just
changed
the agency.
Was it just the agency?
Yeah. So she becomes the main lady there, which is fine. But the problem is they add this Zara Khan, this woman here, who is the most irritating character that they've had in the show, a show built on irritating characters. She's the woke, make sure you say everything properly or I will yell at you type of character. And it just kind of, no wonder they canceled it. I was trying to think after season 13, I'm like, oh, this is just like the old stuff. And then you get to season 14, it's more the same crap. If you can put up with I have a very low tolerance for these kind of characters. So if you can put up with this kind of, oh, did you just say that blah, blah, blah? It's just kind of, it's so irritating.
Does the show paint her as the correct person, or is she the joke, like the Pam?
No, okay. She's she's supposed to be the most badass, cool, irritating, woke,
so
short-haired
she took over
wench.
Lana's spot.
Well, Lana was not this. The thing that always was interesting about Lana is that she was the exact opposite of Archer. Not because she's a black woman, but it's because she's the serious one, and Archer takes nothing seriously. But this woman takes things seriously in a very 2022, 2023 type of way.
All right. I watched, because Netflix has been dropping it in 3-episode parts. I watched part 2 of Arcane Season 2. I won't dwell too much on it. Very similar to last time. It just feels like they're creating more questions. And we got 3 episodes left because this is the final season of Arcane. Now, they're going to be doing more League of Legends shows, I'm sure. And it does seem like they're starting to pop up some interesting things that they can bring up in different seasons, because this takes place in the city of Piltover and Zon. Another nation is called Noxus, and they've been introducing some Noxus elements. So I'm like, okay, this is maybe they're going to Noxus next, and that's what the next season's going to be about. But they're introducing so many new things for the characters here, though, where I'm just like, unless they bring all the characters from here over to a different show, then isn't it just still Arcane then? If this is the final season of Arcane, you feel like if they're doing a new show, it's going to follow new characters. So I don't know how they're gonna wrap it all up in 3 seasons. It is very interesting and fun. I don't think this season is as good as the first one, but that's being like, oh, it's not a 9.5 out of 10 like the first season was. Maybe it's an 8 out of 10 for season 2. But yeah, still very good, still very enjoyable. Great writing, except for I'm not a huge fan of what they've been doing with Caitlyn in the show, but not bad. I just don't like it either. Jace has had some very interesting stuff happen. But I still highly recommend it, especially, I guess once it's all out, you can just binge everything. But it's definitely a show that you should watch, especially the first season. But the second season is still good. It's one of those. It's not as good as the first, but an 8 out of 10, still an 8 out of 10.
All right, Sweet Pea. I talked about this prior.
More Ella Purnell.
And yeah. So I've been watching it week to week, and it's still quite good. So main character has been killing more people, but they hit this snag where the main girl that you think she's going to kill in the show, she ends up kidnapping her, and they kind of start working together. It's a really low point of the first, I think it's 7 episodes so far, because I guess you can't really do villain of the week when she's just kind of killing random ass people.
Yes,
but
is it going to be Dexter? Is that what they're trying to go for?
No.
Okay.
She ends up kidnapping this girl, and they end up working together. It's very, very weird. But we've hit in episode 7, or whichever the one that was previous to this week when we're recording, they hit this cool in quotes, this spot that has made it super interesting again. I don't think people really care. Not many people have stars, but basically they work together, and then
what's wrong?
She disappears. This Julia Blankensop's character's name. 6 episodes, so the 7th must be coming tonight. She disappears, so Ella Purnell's character thinks she left her, because they were working together to get rid of Julia's husband, because apparently he's the problem.
The worst.
They kind of get
horrible bosses.
Go down this goddamn route. But anyways,
is it men bad or just he bad?
Well, they lean super hard into he's bad, but they kind of imply some things.
Part of the reason why he's bad is because men bad.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much. I guess I won't. I recommend you watch this show. There's
I might
some
try to see if I can get it on Plex.
Cornball, cheesy parts, but for the most part, it's pretty solid. The acting's good, and I'll just leave it. It gets super. There's a 2 to 3 episode spot where you're like, this is kind of. But it's not the entire episode. But the spot that involves the murders / the kidnapping, this is kind of mid, but the tension is there. If you think back to Dexter season 2 when he kidnaps Dokes, spoilers for a show for the episode from 2007. You know how people get.
Yeah.
The tension of the potential to be found out as a kidnapper, let alone all the other murders that have taken place, is good. The tension's pretty high, but
it's because you've reached a point now where things can't go back to normal, and you're interested to see which way it sways now. Because it's he's kidnapped him, either he gets free and bad things happen, or gonna have to do something to keep him from getting from telling the secret. Things won't be the same after this. That's
Correct.
What makes for interesting stakes. It's not just if this situation resolves the way they want or the way they don't want, not much will change. Either way, you need it where it's just okay, no matter what happens, something crazy is going to happen, and you gotta see which thing is going to happen. What makes it fun.
And we've hit another one of those points at the end of episode 6.
That's interesting. Really cool.
That's pretty much it. I guess it's on Apple TV as well, based on this little symbol down here, but it is on Stars, and I don't know. It's a pretty solid. I think 76% is quite fair. It's not mind blowing and it's not trash. So, and I would recommend it.
All right. This is a video I watched. I'm basically getting into stuff that we've talked about a little bit here, but just like the lack of nuance in gaming is, or I guess the lack of nuance is killing game discourse. And it's just the idea with like a lot of outlets are taking stories and ideas. I think, and I watched a ton of videos. This is the one that I picked out, and it's already just like, wait, was this the one that he talks about Concord? Pretty sure it was a different one. I think I watched a bunch of this guy's videos, but this was the one that made me like really like his stuff, and just the idea of, everyone's talking about people talking about games, and they're just purposely leaving out things just for the the idea of, hey, it's gonna make for better clicks or give our ideas. I won't get too much into the video.
I thought you were gonna say it'll make for better explanation from my side or make my side look. That happens so often.
Yeah, that's why I say it's just a good video. I also find it kind of cool because when he uploaded this video, I guess he only had 500 subscribers. It really popped off for him. Been getting a lot of support after it. Like, if you look at his channel too, you'll see like a lot of his videos are just like 300 views, and then you have a bunch of these that just really popped off. But I would it is a very interesting conversation, and I think from the fact that he was just like a small person, it's just like he's just speaking his mind and his thoughts on things.
He does
and it feels
look
very, it just feels very real. That's what I really liked about the video. Is it's like he doesn't seem like he's trying to push an agenda. It's just like, hey, I'm realizing there's something wrong with gaming right now, and people talking about gaming, and yeah, it's just a good little piece talking about the problems. It's just the idea with politics in general, and I heard this comparison where now I feel like it's with everything, including video game discourse and just politics in general. Everything's like sports now, either our team or your team.
Yeah,
and there's no, like he's saying there, nuance to it at all. When there should be nuance to everything that's being said. Yeah.
Right. Speaking of sports, the Cowboys suck, so we'll just get that out of the way. Okay.
I refused to pick up their I needed a QB for fantasy, and the Cowboys QB was like the #1 rated pick, and I went for #2.
Yeah.
So
yeah, screw the Cowboys. Okay, this is double slap, and if you want to search it, the O is actually a 0, which you can see in the @double slap. So this is it's a couple, an English guy and a Welsh guy, I guess, and like a Swedish. Okay, the girl's from the Netherlands. They do these shorts on YouTube and possibly on TikTok, but I don't have TikTok, so it'd probably do them pretty well to migrate to TikTok as well, because of the style of videos they do. So if you look at the normal videos, there's basically nothing. Yeah. There's 2. But their shorts, they have thousands of them. So, and what they do is they'll take like these little hidden secrets that were in like these older Pokemon games.
Like you being underneath the truck?
Yeah, Mew under the truck. Yeah, the GS ball only being available in Japan for a short period of time until they remade the games in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. But they do all these little things, insanely rare Pokemon event. So in Ruby and Sapphire, instead of the professor showing you how to catch Pokemon, Wally shows you. And you can actually, Wally's Ralts can be a shiny in the encounter, but he won't be shiny in the game. So it's little things like that. But they're if you're into any of this old school pre-internet rumor mill type things, the videos are very interesting. And especially me, I'm a big Pokemon guy, but just in terms of like you were talking about gaming nostalgia, we talked about this a couple times before. If you're into any of that kind of stuff, it's just a really cool, and they're doing very well with all these views, but
it's gonna be very good.
Yeah, and and they got Squirtle in the.
I guess they have Either they have a kid or it's just a cute little thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, you
just
know, it's interesting.
talking
I
about
didn't know this.
nostalgia.
We are Puff and Joy, a couple in a long. So they're doing this
Long
in a long
distance.
distance relationship, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's check that out. Double Slap. When you get a chance, and it's just a lot of fun. Even if you're not super into Pokemon, it's still fun. These little videos to watch,
like little pieces of knowledge.
Yeah. Gaming history.
Yeah. So I watched this video. This guy, I'm pretty sure it's this YouTuber I watch every now and then. He does, Deconstruction of Villainy is his series where he talks about villains from different games and kind of goes into like, just kind of like their, like I say, like goes into their psyche. Not really, but it's all about just like looking at different villains from different games and getting into like why do they do what they did, going through their story in the game and just interesting look. And he has one like on Sephiroth and stuff like that. But this one was about a character from Horizon Zero Dawn. And I watched this video because I do like this guy's videos. And it reminded me just why I really like Horizon Zero Dawn. And actually, the guy that I was the guy's channel who I was looking at earlier, it was funny because I watched these both separately, but some of the other videos that I watched of his after that one was talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, and one of the videos that he did was like, why, like, people suddenly everybody hates Horizon Zero Dawn, it seems. Or like the game came out, people liked it, but nowadays it seems like everybody says it's a terrible game or it's like an industry plant. And I don't know, watching this video reminded me, the story in this game is very, very good. I think the gameplay and a lot of the other stuff is very good in the game too as well. The game can get a little bit repetitive because it's the whole open world issue that you can come across with some games. But like the complexity of the narrative and also like what's going on with the villain, you could say the villain because Ted Fair wasn't like the final boss or anything like that because you never see him in person. The whole idea is like, he's a person from before the collapse of the world and it restarted as what we know now is in Horizon Zero Dawn with all like the robot animals. But just kind of like what he did and how it led to where we are now in the game, I forgot. Super intriguing, super cool to see, and just the breakdown of his character and how it's just like he's technically a villain, and he does some bad stuff, but it's the scariest thing about the guy is he's just a normal person just trying to do, just a typical business person where at the end of the day, they're just in it for themselves, for the money, for a lot of them. And that can sometimes lead to something very terrible, just a simple mistake. It's a little decently long video because, like I said, it goes over the entire history of the character, and I actually haven't finished it because I haven't finished the second game yet, and they go a little bit into the second game. I was like, I do plan on finishing it eventually, but
is that another open world like 60-70 hour game?
I think I beat the game in like 30 hours.
Oh, okay.
There's only one. There's only like one part like content I didn't do in the game, which was like these hunts they do, like these challenge things where it's like, oh, you have to defeat this many enemies in this much amount of time and get these medals. I just skipped out on that because it's not really that important. But
do they have big DLCs for both games too?
This one does. The first game does, and it's actually a very I think the DLC for the first game is like top 5 DLCs I've ever played.
Is it called like Winter something? Or?
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
I know which one you're saying. It's like the Frozen Wilds or
something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's once again what makes that so much fun is the expansion of the lore and the story of what's going on. It's just super intriguing and interesting. Nice. And I just wanted to talk about it because I forgot how fun the lore of this game is and just how intriguing and interesting. And it's one of the things where if I like to do a lot of writing. If I look at something in writing and I really, really like it, I have like a list of things I wish I wrote. And like the story for this game is one of those things on the list. It's very clever. I guess that's the word I've been looking for. Very, very clever. You can be, and it's just the mystery throughout the game of like, what is going on? I don't get, how do we have robot machines? How do we get to here at this point? And it's very similar to Xenoblade Chronicles, where the story goes places you never thought it would, but it just keeps, it pays off very well, I guess is the important thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just speaking for the first game. I haven't made it too far into the second game.
All right, cool.
I did watch his other video on the Last of Us stuff, which because it probably
So,
popped up in the recommended.
I've
like,
never played these games, but I'm gonna check out the series you said. So, because I don't know anything. I mean, I might still watch it, but like if I'm gonna experience this guy for the first time, I'll watch it on something that I know about, like you said, Sephiroth. So,
oh yeah,
and then maybe just his storytelling ability. Even though I don't have any plans to play Horizon, I might still.
oh yeah, and that's what I think is very interesting is because he does it from a standpoint of maybe you haven't played the game before, but it's just like a look at how interesting this character is, and let me talk about how interesting this character is.
Sure. All right, so I think that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Check out our what was the review we did? Oh, Strange Darling's not up yet. It will be. Actually, I shouldn't even mention that because it'll be up before this.
Okay.
Check out our Heretic review coming shortly, and we will catch you guys later.
Peace.